What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by WinBet. I'm Stucky, and with me, as always, is Colin Wilson. What a guy showing up Sunday morning after what looked like the win of the century. If you watched the Arkansas-Texas game, parades, confetti. I'm glad that you made it, and I'm glad that you're still alive. Congrats on the win, brother.
I'm extremely proud of my program. Not just that, just the whole thing that's all going on with Arkansas right now, with Eric Musselman getting us to the Elite Eight. Dave Van Horn is a national title contender in baseball every year. Sam Pittman has taken a team that was a joke, allowing North Texas, Toledo, Coastal, teams like that to beat us. He's made everybody care. He's made it a destination for kids to come play in. People don't realize, in like a real estate and a place to raise a family, like the secret's out. Like they're filming movies in Northwest Arkansas. Minnery was nominated for an Academy Award based out of Northwest Arkansas. True Detective Season 3 based out of Northwest Arkansas. Like it is being exposed that this is like the greatest place in the country to be. And it feels good to get a win over the Longhorns. Welcome to the SEC.
You live in Oklahoma.
We just barely over the line, not that far away from home.
All right. The only other question I have for you is, are you prepared to lose to Georgia Southern now as 3 touchdown favorites?
I appreciate you not even giving me a good morning. It's just, I can't wait to get Georgia Southern over 3 TDs. This is going to be the hammer of the week. Like, what are you doing to me, huh? Let me enjoy this just for a little bit before the books open.
I'll give you 3 days. I won't say anything else until we record on Thursday, because that Arkansas game's not till Saturday. But Arkansas was impressive. We'll get to, I'm sure there's actually, let's just look, we have a lot to get to. We have a weekday. We have one weekday game this week. We have a couple Friday games, which we'll do on the Thursday night podcast that comes out overnight Thursday. We do have a Thursday night game between Ohio and Louisiana. Ohio, yikes. If you want to buy low on a team, I don't know if I'm ready to bet them, but they lost to Duquesne, but we'll get to that game. And we will talk about a few games we have circled, like Georgia Southern for next Saturday. I'll share my thoughts on Monday Night Football as well. All right, before we get to our best call, worst call, bet, regret, a couple other games that I wanted to go over. Great call on Georgia. By the way, you were like, nope, don't buy into the steam. And Georgia boat raced UAB even without their quarterback. By the way, let me gloat a little bit. Mercer team total over. Over 2.5. I thought it was going to be 6. It was 2. I got 2.5 minus 120. I mean, a couple $100, but they scored more points than Miami. Oh man, Saban's going to be pissed. Monday practice, Bama is going to get it for allowing 14 to Mercer. Couple upsets late night that many people might not have seen. BYU beat Utah, ended the streak. Clay Helton has to go, by the way. Any thoughts on either of those games?
No, USC, that was one of the – I'm a little afraid for my Stanford win. I mean, they really got it going in the passing game, found some offense, but it was USC's defense that really regressed in that box score, and they took a major hit in power ratings down. Stanford did get a couple point bump in their power rating, but USC really went down to like lower levels in the power ratings, and so you're not going to expect to see any love out of here. Still tons of penalties, terrible execution on defense. We are right back to good old USC. And listen, we are faced, and I know we haven't talked about Utah BYU, but I'm going to tell you right now, we are shaping up for a UCLA Chip Kelly revenge on Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game, something that could send a team to the playoff, which is a dream. I think that'd be awesome.
I have to give credit to BYU. I mean, there wasn't a fluke win. If you look at the box score, it's not like they got a couple turnovers and benefited from a few fluky plays. They deserved to win that game. They beat Utah 26-17. They outgained them 380 to 340. Well done, BYU. All right, let's move on to a quick recap of our own cards. I had a middling day. I dropped about a half a unit on the day, so I had a losing day. I think that was well deserved. It wasn't a awful day, but I feel like I didn't deserve a winning day, so I thought it was a fair result. My best call of the weekend, it has to be Toledo. Really never in doubt. Could have won the game. Notre Dame escapes again. but, grab that 18.5 early in the week. It closed 16 and just, never a sweat. Would have loved that win, though, for Toledo's win total over. It wasn't a great day for week one, was great for my win totals. This week was not. Worst call, I mean, Iowa State has to be. Don't think there needs to be much more said than that. And I guess I'll throw, and maybe you'll talk about it too, but I'll throw Michigan, Washington, your first half under, the game under. Never really a sweat there. And I have to pat myself on the back because someone said, I bet Stucky can't wait to talk about this on the podcast. USF, baby. Worst bet that's probably the worst bet of the weekend that I made, but it's somehow covered.
I'm proud of you for that bet. That took balls.
They were down like 31-0, like 2 minutes in. I was like, oh my God. And I don't know how they covered. Florida had 666 yards. USF had 283. I cannot wait to see Florida plays Alabama. We'll talk about that game a lot later this week. I can't wait to see what Mullen does with his quarterbacks this week because look, we told you about this kid Richardson last week on the podcast. He had 3 pass attempts for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns. 3 of 3, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had 4 rush attempts for 100+ yards and a touchdown. I mean, he is a walking explosive play. And, he was sharing time with Emory Jones. I'm really curious to see what Mullen does with the quarterback situation against Bama. But yeah, USF, sometimes you just look, I mean, Florida did go very vanilla, which was part of the handicap, but sometimes you make a bet and you get lucky. And that was the case with USF because if you showed me that first half and you were like, and told me I could risk-free take away my bet, I would have. But USF did get to the window. Bet regret, I'll give you 2. Not tailing you on Arkansas. I always trust you on Arkansas. I don't know how many times you brought up Arkansas on our Big Bets on Campus live show, but I'm happy that it worked out. And there was a reason that you were so enthusiastic about that play. So I do regret not joining you and partaking in the festivities. And why didn't I just bet UConn team total under every week? A couple people were tweeting at me, this is the greatest play every week. UConn is absolutely miserable. They lost 49-0 to Purdue, and were just horrendous. Got dominated in every facet. So I'll say that UConn, just bet the UConn team total under, and when Colin is confident in Arkansas, tail him. How about you? Best call, worst call, bet regret?
Yeah, we should also be betting Washington team total unders from here on out. Best call, I'll just stick with Arkansas. We went on the live show. It anchored the money line round robin parlay, and it's not just another team. When I'm a 2-time graduate and I pump my chest loudly about this team and I go on a live show and give betting advice that this team's going to win outright, I'll quickly say, good job, and we're on to Georgia Southern. So I'll use that as a best call. Worst call, I mean, UTEP had 6 turnovers. Iowa State turnovered themselves out. So a couple of the losses that I did take, Rice +8 never had a shot. Houston shut down in the second half in week 1, and then all of a sudden they showed up, and when they went crazy on Rice, and the Rice team that showed up at Arkansas didn't execute whatsoever. That was a terrible call. NC State was an opener that I hit. There was some heavy reverse line movement and triggers in the market that told me that Mississippi State was going to win this game. I never bought out. And I'm not sure if that's bet regret or what, but NC State had 3 offensive turnovers, but they hung with them in the box score. So I'm not sure if that's considered a worse loss. But I would say the late night bet of Hawaii +11, there was a turnover in that game, but despite that turnover, they still wouldn't have covered against Oregon State. So we will call that, Hawaii my worst call. Bet regret. It's a USF. Tie. It's a tie. And I'll start with saying, I don't know why I didn't add more to San Diego State and why did I not add more to San Diego State and Arizona going over? Huh? Over 48 on the over.
Arkansas beats Texas and San Diego State goes over.
And we are going to bet
the peak of the season for you.
More and more and more. No, I actually did bet that. I should have bet more. I got scared from the market movement. But let's be honest. I said on the pod a week ago, aren't we betting UMass against Boston College? This is the spot, right? 38-point spread. God, and they lost by 17. Why did we miss this spot on UMass? That's my bet regret.
Did the San Diego State? Yeah, I mean, Arkansas beats Texas and San Diego State goes over. It doesn't get any better for you. Did that game deserve to go over? I didn't watch much of it.
No, the handicap on the game was not so much the Helinski's vertical and electric offense, which it was. The reason it went over is because of what I said last week. Jed Fish's tempo is insane. Like, I mean, I'm going to run the numbers here this Sunday afternoon, but they might be the fastest team in the country. So if odds makers don't catch up, it's going to be Arizona overs for a while.
He's also very aggressive on fourth downs, which
yeah,
I think he went for a couple fourth downs in his own territory in the first week, in the first half.
Let me see a projection. What I've got now, numbers haven't come out as Stuck and I are recording this, but Arizona's next game, Northern Arizona. So we probably won't get a total, but if they don't adjust what Arizona should be from a tempo perspective, we're going to keep hammering Wildcats overs.
Yep. All right. Before we get out of here, let's go 3 and out. All right. First down, let's talk Thursday night football. It's an ugly one, but at the same time, it's beautiful in its own way. Okay, we have Ohio visiting Louisiana Thursday night, 8 Eastern on ESPN. Ohio is 0-2, and their most recent loss, I mean, they lost the season opener to Syracuse, and Syracuse, scored 7 points against Rutgers this past weekend. And then this past weekend, Ohio lost to Duquesne at home, 28-26. I mean, that's as bad as it gets. Louisiana, meanwhile, everyone will recall, they lost to Texas in the season opener. And this past weekend, they beat Nicholls State 27-24. Not great. This is a team that I wanted to sell early on in the season after what they did last year. Really got lucky in a lot of games. I think that they still have market appeal despite losing to Texas, and I don't think anyone even noticed that they barely beat Nicholls State. So from a buy low, sell high perspective, I mean, this is as much value, I think, as you're going to get on Ohio. I don't know if I can stomach the Bobs. Have you updated your projections? Any thoughts on this game?
Yeah. So the updated Action Network power rating for me is Louisiana minus 18.5. That's pretty much in line with some of the other power ratings that I'm seeing this morning. We have yet to see a line open up here. It's a total project around 52. So yeah, you have to late with Louisiana. They need a get healthy game for an offense that just hasn't been able to put numbers up on the board yet. And whether that's something's going on within the program or execution's been there and we just haven't figured it out in the red zone, I'll look more into that. But I don't see, it's Louisiana or nothing here all the way up through 21.
All right, second down. Let's talk next week. So any games on your radar that you have circled that you can't wait for the line to pop so you can hit it? I'll start. Should I whisper it? Georgia Southern, obviously, they might get their I got to monitor their quarterback situation. They've been awful. Arkansas might still be in the midst of a parade this upcoming weekend with Texas A&M on deck after a win over Texas. I mean, talk about a sandwich spot. And it's a triple option team that loves to just hold the ball. So, if you're catching over 3 touchdowns, which is the hope, a little harder to cover even if you do come out and show up. So Georgia Southern's on my radar. We're going to be in fights with Iowa people all year. It looks like Kent State flash fast. I'll see what this inflated Iowa number is, and that their turnover luck can't sustain and persist. So those are 2 that pop for me. How about you? Anything circled on your radar?
Yeah, actually, now that I look at my look ahead spots that you and I are going to talk about on the podcast later this week, I don't even know how I did say that Georgia Tech wasn't my best bet of the week. I mean, they dominated Kennesaw State. I can't believe I deep dived that game so much, but I'm glad it paid off for everybody that backed the Jackets.
That was a great call. Great call.
Yeah. So listen, for next week, and the spots I'm looking to hit here as openers come out here a couple hours after Stuck and I record. Georgia Tech at Clemson. Clemson has NC State on deck. Northern Illinois at Michigan. Michigan has Rutgers on deck. Georgia Southern at Arkansas. Texas A&M on deck, like we said. New Mexico's at Texas A&M, and Texas A&M's got to look at Arkansas. So they got to get healthy against New Mexico here. a 3-3-5 defense. That's interesting. Tennessee Tech is at Tennessee. Tennessee needs a get healthy game, but they do have overlooked Alabama. So if Heupel's going to do anything different, he's not going to show it against Tennessee Tech. Colorado State at Toledo. Toledo has a big game against Ball State coming up, so it could be a good spot for Colorado State to come in. That's it for my look ahead spots.
A couple lines that are out. It looks like Oklahoma up to a 22-point favorite at some spots against Nebraska. Oklahoma State, I think that game, it looks like it's going to be about a coin flip. I should have mentioned this spot. I love Boise State this week. I watched every single play of that Oklahoma State game against Tulsa. They should have lost. Tulsa was the better team from start to finish. Oklahoma State had a kick return for a touchdown. They had a 3rd and 17 touchdown where the guy was down and they didn't review it. And they had a 3rd and 15 touchdown that he didn't have control of the ball and they overturned it on the review. Tulsa didn't score at the 1 and then kicked it off, kicked the field goal, kicked it off. Oklahoma State returned. They were awful. It was Spencer Sanders looked awful. The receivers there are a lot of receiver injuries, by the way, to note. They lost a bunch of receivers during the game. The offensive line was just bad. Look, Boise State, who I was low on coming into the year, looked a little better this past week. I just am so much lower on Oklahoma State after what I've seen the past 2 weeks. So I think Boise beats them at home. I would love to get that at, where it looks like it's going to be Boise +1. I'll eat that up. And then
I got a +2. Yeah. And I completely agree with you. I'm willing to go all the way up to Boise -1 without getting deep into the numbers.
Yeah. And Bama, it looks like 13.5-point favorites at Florida. I was hoping to get, by the way, I am 1-0 in my last one bet against Bama. Mercer team total over. I'm going to wear that with pride after what Miami did to me in the first week. I was hoping to get over 2 touchdowns with Florida here. I'll have to dive into it. And I'm just so curious to see, trying to figure out what Mullen is going to do with the quarterback situation. It's a run heavy team now. It's, with Richardson, with explosive passes, but he's kind of redesigned the entire offense. You have to give him credit after losing Trask, losing Pitts, losing Tony, all the receivers. And their offenses look good so far. Now, granted, they played USF and FAU. So I'm curious to dive into that game.
There's only one play for me. There's only one play for me in that game. No, I mean, I make the line 12.5, but the total, I actually project, no shit, before any line comes out, I make the total 70. So I don't know. This number's going to open up in the 60s maybe, but where do you attack Alabama? Just answer me this question. Where do you attack Alabama? At the front, right? In the front defensive line. And they lost their best linebacker. And this Anthony Richardson kid, there's yards to be gained here. This is an overlook for me.
Yeah, I got to dive into this game, spend quite a bit of time on it this week, and then talking about it on our podcast episode later this week. But I'm excited to go back and watch. Maybe I'll watch some Mercer. Maybe Mullen's watching some Mercer film to figure out how to attack this Alabama offense if they put up 2 touchdowns. He's definitely not watching Miami film. All right, for third down, I'll give a minute or two thought on the Monday Night Football game. Make sure you check out the Action Network podcast. We have content for Monday Night Football. Chris Raybon and I preview the card each week later in the week. But it's the Ravens, my team. A few people reached out wanting my thoughts. I will have this game written up on actionnetwork.com and the Action Network app. I played under 51. I like it down to 50. I think the Raiders defense is actually going to be improved this year, mainly because they changed coordinators. And Gunther, I've been yelling for years, has to go. They brought in Gus Bradley, who, just from a scheme perspective alone is going to be an enormous upgrade. The Raiders defense has been so bad because they haven't been able to generate pressure. They have struggled in coverage, and they weren't doing anything to compensate for some of those deficiencies from a scheme perspective. Bradley will, and, they brought in Casey Hayward. They brought in Ngakoue. They brought in a couple veteran linebackers. So it's an improved unit from a talent perspective as well. But on the other side of the ball, the Raiders offense has been the strength the past couple of years. Carr's been very underrated. but it's mainly been because of a great offensive line. And that offensive line is no longer a strength. Richie Incognito is the veteran presence on that line. He's been hurt. They lost Trent Brown, Gabe Jackson, Rodney Hudson. I mean, this is a raw, inexperienced offensive line that I think is really going to struggle with a blitz-heavy Ravens team. It's a very complex defense to face for a young, offensive line that's inexperienced and has been playing together. So I think the Ravens are going to blitz as they always do under Wink Martindale, generate pressure, get to Carr, and I think the Raiders are going to struggle moving the ball. When the Ravens have the ball, look, they're obviously not a great passing team. It's a run-heavy team that has lost their top 3 running backs to ACL tears or Achilles tears in the past month. It's an insane situation. Gus Edwards was going to be the workhorse. He tore his ACL this week. So don't underestimate the impact of that for a team that runs it more than any team in the NFL by far. So you might see some growing pains with this offense early on. And guess what? Gus Bradley knows how to defend this Ravens offense. If you recall, when he was with the Chargers in the playoffs, they upset the Ravens and completely shut down the rushing attack. He had a great scheme for that game. So he's seen this Ravens. And look, if the Ravens get a big lead in this game, in the second half, they're probably not going to show much. And they're probably going to just want to get out of Dodge without injuries. It's weird to say for an NFL team, but number one, they have the Chiefs next week on a short week. And that game could have major playoff implications. And number two, you don't have a team like this in the NFL that has all these ACL injuries within a week. Like, it's crazy. So they have to be a little hesitant and shy of like, all right, let's stay healthy after what just happened. And I know Marcus Peters got hurt, but the Ravens are good at cornerback. Marcus Peters, I think the loss of him actually helps the under because he had such boom or bust potential. He could have a pick 6 at any moment. He also, because he's so aggressive, could get burnt deep. Anthony Averett, very capable backup. Jimmy Smith, who's banged up, is still there. You have Marlon Humphreys on the outside, top 2 or 3 corner in the NFL. Tavon Young being back in the slot is huge because Humphrey can play on the outside. You have 2 underrated safeties. They'll be blitzing all day against a young, experienced offensive line. So I don't see this Raiders offense doing much. So I think the play is under. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to see how Shaun Wade does in your secondary.
Shaun Wade is gone. Traded.
Sorry.
That's traded to the Patriots. And that is to emphasize my point. The Ravens always have my back, by the way. I was like, oh my God, we drafted Shaun Wade and they traded him before the season even started. But that speaks to the depth that the Ravens have at cornerback. They drafted Shaun Wade and then they traded him for 2 draft picks next year to the Patriots. So their cornerback depth is a strength. Assuming Tavon Young can stay healthy, he hasn't the past couple of years, but fingers crossed. So yeah, I think the play is the under.
A lot of systems coming in. A lot of our metrics that we use to look at the market and grade it says that the Raiders are the play here. But I agree with you. I think the under is probably first half under, being first game of the year, is the best play for me.
Yeah. By the way, John Gruden since 2003, the least profitable coach in the NFL. To back John Harbaugh, 10-3 against the spread in week 1. Dominant after a bye. It's just always a well-prepared team. The last 2 years, I think they've won by a combined score of 97-16 in the first 2 weeks. They just blitzed the Browns and crushed the Dolphins 2 years ago. But I make the line right around 4. It's not. And look, all these injuries, I wouldn't hate you if you wanted to back either one of these teams. I can see the case, but I'm right at 4. I'm siding with the under. It's time for us to go watch some NFL, wait for some of these numbers to pop, dig into box scores, and start preparing for next week. Can't wait to have that Georgia Southern notification come on to your phone. And congrats again to your Hogs. And more importantly, for your San Diego State over. Hope everyone had a great weekend. It's time for us to go find some winners. We will be back Thursday night, release overnight Thursday with the week 3 betting preview. Maybe have some giveaways later in the week. So make sure you subscribe, unsubscribe, leave a review, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We appreciate all of your support, and we'll catch y'all later in the week. Cheers.
Peace out.